I said to myself, I'm not watching any Netflix original show until it's confirmed, not only confirmed, until they're filming season 2 and there's like a date for season 2 to be released. Because every single show that I watch from Netflix, that is Netflix original, they always get cancelled. And I'm pissed. However, I still watched Emily in Paris. I don't have the best relationship with Netflix because do I even have to go there? Every single Netflix original show that I enjoy gets cancelled. Made a promise to myself that I'm not gonna watch any other Netflix original unless they're already filming a next season. There's a new show on Netflix that hasn't even been released for a week and I already watched it, and it's called Emily in Paris, starring Lily Collins. So obviously I couldn't not watch it. Already being compared to Sex and the City. I like Sex and the City and I love Gossip Girl and The Devil Wears Prada. And I love Lily Collins, so obviously I watched the show. So here we are. I'm gonna rant about it because that's what I do. So if you like that, you can subscribe to my channel and also follow me on my social media if you wanna see more from me. And let's get into this video. So it stars Lily Collins. Emily is a girl from Chicago and she works for like the marketing department for a company, and her boss, who is Addison Montgomery from Grey's Anatomy, she was supposed to go to Paris to work for this company to teach them about American marketing things. But she got pregnant, so she can't go, so Emily goes instead. The show is basically, you know, an American living in Paris and dealing with French people. It plays a lot with a lot of stereotypes, with the typical stereotype of French people being completely mean, as well as the cultural shock between Americans and French. Like the language, things that are normal in France that are not really normal in America and vice versa. Every character is a stereotypical French and there's not one that breaks out of that stereotype. And it was slightly annoying, but it was also funny because I don't have a problem with shows and movies having stereotypical characters and basing things with stereotypes, as long as you make fun of it. The show didn't just do that, they also acknowledged that they were being very stereotypical and they kind of made fun of that. It was really interesting to me because I'm an outsider, so I'm not French, I'm also not American, and I've never lived in neither France or the States. So it was great as an outsider, I guess, to see loud American, doesn't really want to adapt to the new culture and doesn't really understand the new culture, and maybe doesn't even want to learn the new language when they move to another country. And we have the mean French. Since the show is compared to Sex and the City, let's get into that. I've never watched the entire series of Sex and the City, but I have watched many episodes to know what Sex and the City is about and how and what it's like, and I really enjoy Sex and the City. Do I think that Emily in Paris is just like Sex and the City? I feel like it's kind of like a 2020 version, and you have a lot of similarities between Emily and Carrie, I believe that's the name. Carrie is a blogger, she talks about fashion and sex and just lifestyle, and while Emily is an influencer, it's literally what Carrie used to do, but updated. I feel like there's that similarities, but the overall show, I saw more similarities to The Devil Wears Prada. I don't know why, I guess because of Lily Collins reminds me of Anne Hathaway, and the boss, I think Sylvie, she reminds me of Miranda. I feel like plot-wise, it reminds me more of The Devil Wears Prada rather than Sex and the City. I feel like if you enjoy Sex and the City, you'll probably enjoy this show, but I personally like Sex and the City more than Emily in Paris, but I think it's a fair comparison, to be honest. Should I talk about the guys? You know, she starts the show with a boyfriend, and they literally break up once she moves to Paris because he can't do long distance. They didn't last a week of long distance, like, but we already knew that they were gonna break up. Like, it was really obvious. She's in Paris, and every single guy hits on her. Like, it's Lily Collins, I get it, she's hot. The guy that was helping her move in. We also have Gabriel, we'll talk about him in a bit. That dude that is having an affair with Sylvie, and we also have Thomas, the son of that fashion designer, don't remember his name. So I live in Spain, but I'm not from here. I moved to Spain 2 years ago, and like, in a way, like, I understand why she's like a fresh meat in France, because she's not from France, she's not French. So I kind of see that because I'm not from Spain. So I've definitely, you know, because I'm different than the typical Spanish woman to a certain extent, like, you know, people, because you're different, you're not from here, so people look at you and notice you more, if you know what I mean. But I feel like it was kind of over exaggerated and it was kind of uncomfortable to watch because every single guy would be head over heels about her. But I guess it's kind of relatable that everybody had a crush on Lily Collins because it's Lily Collins. I'm a little biased with Gabriel. I have a thing for French guys. I love French culture, and at some point I want to move to France. It's like my goal in life to move to France. So I'm not obsessed, but I'm really interested in French culture, and everything French catch my eye, especially if it's a French guy. So obviously he's hot and he's French, so I was already kind of I like it. But his character is not that great, because his character, he is her neighbor, right? And he definitely has a crush on her. He thinks she's attractive, and even at some point she kisses him, but nothing goes beyond that, and he continuously flirts with her. Then we find out, like on episode 5 or something, that he is dating Camille, which is Emily's new friend. So while he's in a relationship with her, which he's not exactly happy with her, he is still hitting on and flirting with Emily, which is not great, obviously. I personally really like the guy, but he's just a jerk. I still like him. So Emily makes 2 friends in Paris, Camille and Mindy. I would have loved to see more of Mindy, to be honest. And we didn't even know any of like Mindy's aspiration or dreams or anything until like episode 8. Towards the end is that when we finally see her singing, and that's one of the reasons why she also moved from China. It would have been nice to also have a focus on her, and I really liked Camille. I don't really have much to say about her, honestly. Emily moved to Paris to work in the marketing department of this company, and she's supposed to be there for a year. Nobody really likes her in that company. Her boss Sylvie doesn't like her because they're really used to the way that they do things, and they don't really want an outsider, especially an American, to come to their company and tell them everything that they're doing wrong and how they should be doing things. There's a lot of stereotypes, obviously, and there's a constant, she constantly feels bad because they're not letting her work, they're not trusting her. They just have her there because they have to. They even fire her at some point. What I could personally relate to Emily, and that I thought that it was kind of accurate, was so yeah, she's an American, she moved to Paris, so there's a lot of cultural shock going on over there. I live in Spain currently, and I moved 2 years ago. There's so much cultural shock between my home country and Spain. Even though I'm half Spanish, there's a lot of cultural shock that I'm still 2 years later struggling with. She's struggling to fit in, which is 100% relatable to me, having to fit in, even though I guess her situation is different because she goes from an English speaking country to a French speaking country, and she doesn't speak French at all, so it's really difficult. And I moved from a Spanish speaking country to another Spanish speaking country, so my situation is different, but it doesn't make it any less relatable because we don't speak, as much as it's the same language, we have different ways to say certain things, and there's a different pronunciation, different accents. So that's something that I struggle with a lot. The part where she goes to work and she goes at like 7 8 a.m. and obviously they weren't open because they open at 10, and she was really worried because she thought that they weren't supposed to come in that day, but it's just that they open at 10 a.m. and that's something that happened to me. In my country, usually you go to work at 7 8 a.m. and here you don't even work until like 9 10 a.m. So it's just those things that kind of seem really silly, you know, people talking bad about her in French right in front of her and just kind of taking her for a dumb bitch. It just, I've gone through that, so it's definitely accurate, and one of the reasons why I really like the show, because I've never really seen anything like that. There's a Gossip Girl reference in the show. So she's talking to this dude, he's a fashion designer, I don't remember his name. Oh, how weird, because I usually remember everybody's name. So she's talking to this guy and she is talking about Gossip Girl for some reason. I think because he's a fashion designer, so she is talking about Gossip Girl, how she used to watch with her friends, how they always wanted to be like Serena. She's just like kind of rambling about Gossip Girl, and then the fashion designer tells her, I can't believe it was Dan. I laughed so hard. Her saying that all her friends wanted to be Serena is the most stupid and inaccurate things that I've ever heard. And the funniest part to me is that her wardrobe, her fashion sense, it's, in my opinion, more like Blair's rather than Serena's. So let's talk about the fashion sense, because it's a big thing on this show. I've never watched a fashion driven show like Sex and the City, Gossip Girl, where I hated every single wardrobe. I don't know if it was kind of intentional. I think it was, because every one of her clothes, everything that she wears, it's really colorful. Sylvie, her boss, everything that she wore was more neutral, gray, black. Sylvie always had, you know, the typical French attitude that is always angry or mean, stubborn. And Emily had the stereotypical American that is always like, go big or go home, and super enthusiastic and just enthusiastic about work, you know, the typical American stereotype that there is. So I feel like in a way it was kind of intentional. The show ends with a cliffhanger, of course. Gabriel was supposed to move to his hometown to have his own restaurant because he couldn't afford the one in Paris, so he was gonna go to that town, and he didn't want to take up Camille's family money. So that's why they broke up, Camille and Gabriel. But then the dude that is having an affair with Sylvie, he helps him buy the restaurant in Paris, so he stays. And Emily and Gabriel start having a relationship. Well, they sleep together, that's what I mean. And the show ends with Emily receiving a text from Camille saying that they need to talk. I think the show is very entertaining and chill, and just, I really like that the episodes were like 30 minutes long. A lot of Netflix original shows are like 50 minutes long, and I hate that. So it was really nice that it was just 30 minutes, watched in one day, one go, fine, loved it. The show is very entertaining. If you want something chill to watch, 100% I advise you to watch it. So I think that's my overall opinion. I liked it. I feel like everyone that has moved countries can relate to a certain extent to Emily's experience. I know that I did, and I really liked it. So yeah, the show was good. It definitely has its flaws. I wish that they didn't play you off with that many stereotypes and they would have gone a little bit different. And like, I feel like they relied a lot on those stereotypes, and in a way got kind of tiring, but still really good show. I hope it gets a season 2, but we're talking about Netflix, so I shouldn't have my hopes up. I also like the insertion of influencer. Like, it didn't feel, to me it wasn't cringe. Sometimes when shows try to put social media influencer type of thing on their shows, it usually ends up being kind of cringe. And in my opinion, this is my opinion, it didn't feel cringe to me, which I can also relate to her experience with social media, because apparently she wasn't really active in Chicago, or maybe she didn't really have social media when she lived in Chicago. So by being in Paris, which was extremely lonely, something that I relate so much. I'm so fucking lonely here in Spain. She started being quite active on social media, that later on developed on her being somewhat of an influencer. So I feel like I can relate to that because before my YouTube channel, I'm kind of like a beauty blogger on my Instagram, even though I've kind of put it aside a little bit. I feel like I can relate to her in that journey because I'm definitely part of why I'm making videos in YouTube, or why I started being kind of beauty blogger on my Instagram, was because I'm lonely here. So in a way, I needed to connect with people, and the best way I could connect with people was through online stuff. So I feel like I can totally relate to her journey 100%. I don't know. I really like the show because of that. I think the main reason why I liked the show so much was because I could relate to Emily in many ways, by being new to a different country and by her experience with social media. It's just kind of the same with me, except that I don't have that many followers yet, but it's okay, it's fine. I just need a space where I can talk to people and feel like somebody's listening. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave the video right here. Please give me your thoughts about the show if you enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestion of any series or movies that you think that I might enjoy, let me know in the comment section below. Give a like to this video, and don't forget to subscribe and follow me on my social media if you want to, follow me over there. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.